I was just trying to say that, just as a bit of background, we started the server, because, for me, it was a big part of the community. I mean, I don't know many traders out there, of it's a kind of isolated, lonely environment sometimes when you're trading, because oftentimes it's just you, the charts, and whatever the outcome is, and so, for me, even though there's lots of communities around, I wanted to kind of build one that was very inclusive and kind of, anything that I feel that I can impart and share out with the community. I really wanted to do that. And when I met Kev, who's also part of the team, he has the very same ambitions, and from my perspective, he's the really technical guy behind the scenes who can build anything. I mean, I throw all kinds of crazy ideas at him, and oftentimes he'll turn it into some sort of indicator, screener, whatever it may be. And I think that's that kind of way in which the both of us work together. I kind of have a slightly different trading, a lot of kind of similar trading ethics to Kevin, but actually sometimes different as well. And so I think between the two of us, we make quite a decent team in what we're trying to do. And so, as I say, my trading style, and we're going to get into a lot of this. It's quite a lot to cover actually. So, but my trading style is very much based upon mean reversal. It's kind of going with the trend and waiting for the pullback, identifying more importantly that when you're in a trend, the strength of that trend. So understanding the market structure, what would be classed as like a weak low or a weak high, and obviously the opposite is true as well. And one of the things I wanted to do in and around that was figure out really key points on a chart, specifically around things like pivot points. So when we're on a trend, where's the likelihood of that pullback going to come back to? And we'll get into a lot of this detail because Kevin's going to show us some of the ways in which the screener works and stuff like that. We're also going to talk about how it's been advanced and what the next evolution of this looks like with the companion. But moreover, the idea for me was whenever we get this reversal and whenever we get a trend reversal, where's the likelihood of it going to? And usually there's a lot of different things that I want to see line up. And so, coming into an area of demand or supply, you know, triggered in somewhere close to what would be a pivot point. Again, we can get into what that means. Some of the other things that are really crucial is are we overbought or oversold in line with that pivot point and in that kind of general direction of where perhaps the supply or demand area would be. And then lastly, which I think is the real kind of differentiator in this, the Z score, which is essentially are we more than two standard deviations away from a specific SMA? We've altered the difference. We used to use 50. We've now kind of changed that to 96 period points. And so when we get a lot of these things that line up really, really nicely, and some of the advancements that you won't have seen on the original indicator, things like your supply and demand zones as part of that, it really starts to show some really quality trade opportunities. And so we want to kind of talk a little bit about that. And so as a team, we've kind of come together and thought, well, we've built quite a few different things that we think are really quite key. And depending on how people trade, of course, people will have different ways in which they trade. We think there's a lot of real good value in there. Before I kind of hand over to Kevin, the one key thing I wanted to make a point of saying is, look, this, as I stated at the start, this is about inclusion and not really exclusion. This isn't like, okay, let's just create some tiers to make money and stuff like that. It was just because behind the scenes, we put a lot of independent effort into building these things out with the ideas, obviously the coding and everything that kind of falls in line with that. And so from the inclusion perspective, if anyone's been in our server and spent any time there, you'll know that screener that I've just spoke about is there for anyone. And that hasn't changed. That will never change. That's always available for anyone who just wants to do what they want to do anyway. The server hasn't changed at all. And so that will always be the case. And again, we can go over the screen in a bit more detail in a short while. But for those that do like that screener and want to kind of see some of the enhancements that we're going to show you, then obviously we've created some tiers. There's two different VIP tiers. There's the enhanced, which again we'll go over in a second, and there's also the exclusive, which is the higher tier. I think it's $12 a month for the enhanced, and it's $24 a month for the exclusive tier. But they in themselves bring a lot more kind of benefits, if that's what you kind of want to look at. But again, this isn't a way to kind of charge if you guys don't want to do that and you still want to spend time on the server, absolutely fine. So let me just start by bringing up. Um, let's see. Let's just stop sharing this really quickly, and I'm going to bring up the file that I want to share with you guys. Right. So let's see. Sorry. Let's see this one here. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen. Can I just check you can see that screen? Looks like we can. Okay. So look, what they are in a nutshell. So we have the basic free Discord server. That is exactly everything you're going to see, and you know, there's all the same basic Discord. It will also have the Apex screener, which is effectively at this moment in time purely just linked to MEXC. That will remain as it is. And of course, anything I do or Kevin does on a YouTube perspective will also have that, shared as well. But for the enhanced, you will have everything that is part of that free basic section, plus special access to another section on a Discord server. So the enhanced will be the tier one, but you will also have the enhanced Apex screener, which has some pretty good additions to it. But we can also include, if you trade on Femex, if you trade on Bybit, we can of course also add others as well to that. And so oftentimes you want to trade on your central exchange price action, right? Because that's key. If you're trading on MEXC, you don't really want to be looking at, or if you're trading on Bybit, you don't really want to be looking at Bybit's BTC chart because it's not really going to be, out. And so you want to be really looking at that. The other thing is the liquidation hunter, which is again, I'm just going to briefly go over these very quickly, but we'll dive into it a bit more detail. This is again an indicator that Kip or Kevin has built. And again, not to dwell on it, but it's a fantastic indicator for showing where the potential liquidation and liquidity levels are sitting on the chart, specifically if that's the type of trader you are, which again, both myself and Kevin are. The range ruler, which is the CPR, that's effectively, if you've not seen any of my charts or Kevin's, it's essentially the pivot points, which has a lot more kind of elements in. And again, an intrinsic value to that. You'll also get access to a trading bot feed for copy trading, and this is a feed or a bot that has been developed specifically by Kev. And it's a fantastic bot. Again, I'll let Kev go with that in a second. I'm going to start doing dedicated advanced trading educational videos. I want to kind of go down this route for anyone who's serious about trading, really about how to kind of piece all of these things together. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people who can trade, a lot of people who have different ways and styles, but one thing is always core to that, and that's understanding market structure, it's understanding supply and demand. And so I want to kind of take people on a journey through a number of different educational contents that will be purely for the Discord server. It won't be shared on YouTube. It'll be like a group session for anyone who's part of that enhanced monthly subscription. And that's obviously something that I will do. And of course, my own Apex trade signals. So anything I'm trading, any kind of concepts or ideas with the markups, showing these zones in the areas that I'm going to be looking to trade into, I will also be sharing more of them as part of that as well. For the exclusive, moving on to the other tier now, so you get everything as part of the enhanced section, plus access to the Apex screener indicator. So of course you can run your own symbols, settings, and alerts, and you can view these in real time. So if you don't know currently, the Apex Trade Screener works on a 15-minute candle. So every 15 minutes, the candle will close, and then the signal will be presented. It was interesting, just a quick segue. One of the other team members, Roxas in our server, we was looking at INJ token, and it ticked every single box for the screener, but the screener did not give an alert because it happens in real time. So the 15-minute candle closed outside one of the parameters. So therefore, if a number of these ideas don't come together, it won't signal. However, the live screener isn't looking at any 15-minute close. It's looking at all of the conditions that are met at any one time. So in real time, this indicator is a lot more powerful because you basically you don't miss anything. As soon as it comes through, you'll know when that screener comes in, and then you can decide what you wanna do with the chart. So that's a really fantastic addition to the already fantastic Apex screener. Um, Along with the screener, we've built the companion indicator, and so again, I won't dwell on that one because I think Kev will give us a nice update on that. I'm gonna include my live weekly trading sessions in this. This is gonna be me trading live, so people can kinda see and watch how I'm trading, what I'm looking at, and how I'm kind of deciding to do it. Again, these are not gonna be on YouTube. It's just gonna be live direct from the server. If that's not enough for anyone and they want kind of one-on-one sessions, whether it's with myself or Kevin, I'm using the name Kevin and Kick interchangeably. It's one and the same person, by the way. They, of course, can request that at any point if they feel they need some further education on a specific topic. And then finally, Kick often has built tons and tons of indicators, and so there's a whole plethora of different indicators that he's built, and so if there's any specific ones, again, we get a special discount on that. Now, just before I hand over to Kev, I just want to say a few things. So, kind of our friends over at Blue Guardian have given us some prizes to give away, and so at the end of this, if you've watched it this far, of course, we're going to be giving away a 10K funded account, and so I need to have a little think about what we want to do for that pleasure of giving it away. Maybe some sort of invite contest or something stupid like that, or maybe I don't know. Maybe we do something like create a little video, kind of going over what Apex Trade is about. I don't know yet. I'm open to ideas, but anyway, we've got a 10K funded account to give away, which is great. We're also going to give away 6 VIP Tier 1 NFTs, which is the access onto the server. I'll go over to how that all works in a kind of near the end. And then lastly, we're going to give away 4 Tier 2 NFTs as well. So we just want to kind of start off on the right way and make sure we get a few good people into the server and whatnot. So I guess without further ado, I will hand over to Kevin to maybe start diving into a little bit more about some of the cool things that he's brought to the table. Kev, over to you, my friend.
Sure, thanks. I know this is probably going to be lagged, so sorry about that delay right there. Let me go ahead and also get my screen share back on, because I'll cover a few things as I'm talking about them. Let's see, entire screen. So just to start with, let me talk about the screener. A lot of you may already be familiar with the screener that we've had for many months now. And like Andrew said, that one's staying as is. There have been changes made like in about the last month, but we're going to leave that one just as it is, which of course is connected to MEXC, and lots of people have been trading with that, fairly successfully. But there's just a lot of new ideas that we had that we wanted to, put into a place where we could actually, have something, something driving us behind it to like make it worth spending all the extra time and building it. So as you see here, one of the things that we kind of have built initially is the same screener. And as of now, there's a little bit of changes that are going on under the scenes, or I should say behind the scenes. However, like what you see here in Discord actually is going to be almost identical, with the exception that there are now three different channels that are hitting different charts, one for Bybit, one for Femex, one for MEXC. And as you see me just scrolling through them, like what they're producing is actually different. So like here on Femex, their last thing that was there was ETH. And if I switch over here to Bybit, sorry, my Discord is lagging a little bit there. So anyway, on MEXC, ETH isn't anywhere in sight, but DOT was the last thing highlighted. And actually, I have a better view that I can show this to you on. It's funny, as I was watching this today, Bybit like produces the most, probably because there's the most volume traded there, so it has the most opportunity to get pushed to MFIs, onto the extremes. This one also is showing ETH, but we have these, and one of the things that I want to mention is that these are 3 that we're starting with right now. I think as we get more people, into this first subscription tier, if there's a particular, like, we'll get a feel for what exchanges people are actually trading on, and as long as there's trading view charts available, we'll add the ones that most people are actually using. And if like no one's using Bybit anymore because like it's being outlawed everywhere, or KYC'd and whatnot. I know you can't use it in the US or Canada or Singapore or all sorts of places now. Maybe that one doesn't make sense for us to keep around. So in any case, we'll keep those up to date. Same goes for the actual symbols that we're monitoring. So right now we actually are monitoring 54 symbols per exchange. And so, as new coins come out, we may want to swap them in and swap something else out. So that's one thing that we have there. Let's see. Also, go on to talk about the trading bot feed. This should be empty right now. Yeah. But so the way that this is working, I'll actually have a better view to show you that here. So at present, I've been forward testing 2 different bots on multiple exchanges and actually with at least 2 different instruments, Bitcoin and Tomo. And so these are doing really well. And what I'm going to do is actually produce either another video or maybe even like a document that goes through like each of these bots, a little bit more detail into how they work and to what their back testing was. For the most part, these were back tested from, I want to say like October of last year, so about a year ago, through April 20th, I think it was. And then the live settings were put in like using real money on the exchanges at that point. And so they've been forward tested from April 20th to today. And they're still actually running. And as you see, this one right here actually has a trade open from this morning, or what time was it? Yeah, 5:45, which was a short. It's doing pretty well. But notice, so this one is Trend Pop. I have another Trend Pop that's running on Femex, and that one did not get triggered this morning. So interesting there. I should note that right now Femex is the location that I have copy trading set up. So there's a couple ways you can utilize this. One is we have the Discord feed, and so you can set up alerts on that so you can see when the bots go long and short and on what. And there may be additional trading strategies added at a later point, or there might be different symbols added. I'm running this test with Tomo, and it looked great for back testing. And this one does not go all the way back to April 20th. I just started Tomo like a month ago. However, forward testing has not gone great for that one. In fact, here you can see it took a short almost at the same time, a little bit after Bitcoin did this morning, and it got stopped out. So that was not a winning trade. It was a small loss. But I kind of picked it because I noticed that it actually traded non-correlated with Bitcoin quite a bit, which I liked. However, it's super volatile, and I don't know if the settings just need to be tweaked or if that just the whole idea needs to go away. So there's that. We may add other ones in there. The 2 ways you can manage it, like I said, is you can set up alerts in the Discord because you'll see when it buys and sells there. But as you see, they also happen in the middle of the night. Although, like for those of you in Europe, this wouldn't have been in the middle of the night. It actually been just 10 a.m. in the morning for you. But you can also you also have access to copy trading on Femex. So the ones that I have on Femex, which at the moment are this Trend Pop and this Tomo Trend Pop, In which case, if you set that up, then your account, which has all sorts of different ways you can configure it, might do a video on that too. But you can allocate, whatever amount you want to it. There's actually, I think, a few people already following that account, and like someone only allocated like $20 to it, and then someone else has like 600. So it's up to you how much you want to allocate to that. But the way it works then is when the bot trades, it automatically trades, on your behalf in your account. So at no point do you have to actually, part ways with your collateral and your assets. They stay in your account, and all the trading happens in your account. It just copy trades the bot. And then there is a small commission that gets paid if you're profitable. If it's not profitable, you don't have to pay anything extra. So only if it's profitable is there any kind of extra thing there. So that's another option for you. Let's see. Moving on. I'm trying to remember. Oh, there's in that first tier. You also get access to a couple indicators. One of which some of you already have, because I made this one available to the old Apex Trader Patreon patrons like a long time ago, and that's the liquidation hunter. But now it's only going to be available if you have, this subscription. Anyone that already has it, will keep it forever, of course. And if you've purchased it, of course, you also keep it forever. But otherwise, as long as you have a subscription, you'll have access to it. And the way that this indicator works is it uses vector candles to find high volume areas. You guys are aware, these vector candles that are drawn here, they only get colored green or red when the average volume is more than 3 times the amount of volume of the average of the last 10 candles. So they're very high volume candles. And so the way the logic goes is the only people that would produce that much volume on a single candle are the market makers. Because even people that just have a lot of money that they want to buy in, they wouldn't do that on a single candle because they won't get the best price. They'll average in over a long accumulation or distribution, to the opposite way. So this basically is a way of detecting market maker activity.
You can see there just where the
go ahead.
You can see where that huge drop down came in from today's price action that literally wicked that previous price action there, just into the liquidation zone or the liquidity zone.
Yep, absolutely. And so just so you know, these blue areas back here, you can, if you track back to where they were created, they're these green candles back here. So this green candle produced this zone right here. This green and blue right there produced these areas right here. And that's what the market maker did. They came down, and this is basically the way I have it set right now is 25x. So anyone that went long 25x here basically got liquidated on this, either that wick or this wick probably,
hey, Kev.
as it went down to grab that liquidity. Yes.
A question has come from Quackers, and I also thought it was tick volume, but the question is, don't the vector candles use tick volume and not normal volume? So tick volume being rather than big orders coming from one player, it's accumulation of lots of orders rather than just normal volume.
No, so vector candle, it will draw that way because, of course, as volume is unlike price, as a candle is forming, price goes up and it goes down, and it can change. Volume only goes up throughout the life of a candle; it never goes down. And so, in that way, yes, because on every tick, as long as there's a price movement, there will be a volume change, and so. Yes, from that point of view. However, no, you can actually calculate past vector candles just based on their volume. So, for example, the candle that's currently forming, yes, I'm getting tick data for it, but like all of these candles, if I just open this chart and they're already colored and they don't have tick volume available on TradingView.
Yeah.
So that's a note to that. Contrast that with something like I have down here. This CVD is absolutely driven by tick volume, and the way that that is handled on TradingView is we use intra candles. So like even though I'm on a 15-minute time frame here, the CVD down here is actually built out. I think I have it set to use 15-second candles because I have a premium account, so I can go down to 1 second. 15 seconds actually kind of works perfect for me for the CVD. Okay, but vector candles aren't like that. I'm going to turn this one off now. And before I go, so the way that you use this is basically it's kind of like high block. It lets you see where the liquidity is based on assumed locations of liquidations based on when market makers made fast moves. And the way that this indicator works, it's actually pretty optimized in that, like by default, it's set. Give it a second here. It's set to use the candles that are on the screen, so the visible area, so that it doesn't take forever to render if you don't have all those candles on the screen. So very, very optimized that way. So okay, let me go to the next one because we don't want to spend too much time on that. I do plan on going through and making a video, short video on each of these and how to use them and so on. But another one that I have is this range ruler. It's this is a indicator that I've had for a long time and never even really made available on my own store because at the core of it's a CPR indicator, which there's so many of those available out there. It just didn't seem like something that anyone would buy. However, I then realized that I could actually add a lot of things that I do find missing out there. So I'm going to hide this for a minute. And let's look at the settings for this. For those of you that aren't familiar with CPR, it's basically the same thing as pivot points. Pivot points are what are called floor pivots, even though some of them I guess would be ceiling technically, but those are also called floor pivots. Excuse me, it just depends on whether they're above or below the price. With the addition of the central pivot zone. So let me actually take these other things off. Okay. So you see here, it draws S1, S2, S3, S4. It stops at 4 because there's not any agreement on the formula for anything past that. If you find an indicator that has one, they just made up whatever formula that they're using, which, it might be fine and it might be useful, but because it's not standardized, not a lot of people will have that same level, and so that therefore it doesn't function like all the other ones do. But here in this central zone, you have not only the pivot, but you have this TC and BC, which are known as the top channel and the bottom channel. The whole thing together is called the central pivot zone or central pivot range. And there's a lot of different ways you can use that range for trading. One, they become support and resistance, just like any of the other lines on there. But it goes beyond that, depending on the width of the CPR and whether today's is higher than yesterday's or vice versa. You can glean a lot of things, and there's trading strategies around that. So that is that. But this one also does a lot of other things. So we can add, when we get close to the end of the day, these change at the switch over of the day. So I like showing tomorrow's as well. So you can kind of see where it's projecting tomorrow's to start right now, which these will actually move as the price action moves because, we don't know where we're going to close the day yet until basically right here. But it gives us a good idea of what to expect on that flip over. For me, that happens at 8 p.m. at night. If you're in England, that happens at 11 p.m. So there's that. I also like tracking the monthly CPR. So it does that. It also does these M levels, and I can't remember the guy's name that They came up with these M levels, but as you see, the way that they end up getting rendered is they're actually exactly in the middle between the pivot zones. And there's whole trading strategies built around these M levels. So that could be useful to you.
Okay, can I just interject real quick?
Yes, please.
So, just for anyone wondering the validity, let's just say, of pivot points. So, from kind of my experience, a lot of the years ago, I mean, way back, even maybe as far back as like the 1930s, when technical indicators and trading view and whatever else just wasn't a thing. Like there was no like, I'll create an indicator and I'll put it on a chart. A lot of it was based on mathematical formula that people would derive. So, for example, a pivot point to understand it is, they take the previous day's period, which would be the open, the high, the low, and the close, and then they would divide that value by 3, and then that would give you your next day's pivot. Obviously, you can do the same thing on the weekly and the monthly, and so the pivot point. There's a lot of subjectivity involved whenever you come to support and resistance, supply, demand. It's my version of what I think it might be versus your version. So that subjectivity can often be the difference between you getting into a trade early or getting into a trade late. But what's kind of ironclad is that pivot points are standard and ubiquitous throughout. So it's objective. There's no subjectivity involved, and that's why, for a lot of the reason we pick pivot points, or specifically why we've incorporated it as part of kind of the screening and the trading strategy, is simply because of that element alone. Sorry, Kev, I just wanted to kind of make that point.
No, thank you. So kind of moving on, I'm going to turn those off and also just show some alternates now. Another thing that I, recently started adding into my trading is looking at historical volatility on the daily and using that to produce, our standard deviation zones. So today, maybe this not working out, perfectly, but we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll come down here and tag this this -2 standard deviations. And I've done a few sessions on standard deviations already, but it's a way of introducing probability into your trading. So basically what this is saying that, let's see, at two SDs, that's 99%. So there's a 99% chance that the daily candle will close above this zone. So, I mean, it's not 100%, but 99 is pretty good. Where's it 95? It's tricky I have to go back and look because I think it's actually 95% below here because it's the 2.5 is there's 2.5% at the bottom end and there's 2.5% chance that it'll close above the top end. So yeah, whether we call it 95% or 99%, it's there's not a large probability that the daily will close below here. We might go down, but it would probably come back up. And again, it's not 100%, so it can still happen. But that's that. And then the final thing that we have in here is moves based on average true range. And so as you see here, we're kind of sitting at the -1x ATR. And the way that the ATR works is taking slices, and this is ATR of the daily move. So even though I'm on a 15-minute chart here, I can use this. They kind of span from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And again, it's just another way of looking at the expected move, which, I mean, that term is used a lot when you're dealing with options, but it can be used for, in this case as well, because obviously if you're looking for a place to set your stop loss, something outside a particular expected move zone is going to be safer than other places. Right? So I'll be doing some additional training sessions on that as well. Okay, so Andrew, have I covered everything from tier 1 before I move on to tier 2 stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the things I want to just kind of dwell on, and I don't know whether we cover that in the next session, is essentially, what are the 4 or 5 elements that need to come together in order for the screener to give us, a usable signal, let's just say, or a usable output? Have we kind of gone over? Because I had some problems initially. I actually realized that YouTube was playing in the background, and I thought it was delay. It was actually that there was 2 versions of my voice and yours going on. So anyway, I fixed that now. But I wanted, whether you do it or whether I do it, I kind of just want to give a brief overview of exactly what the screener does in its current format, so then we can kind of look at how that's slightly advanced and we've developed that slightly. Is that something you want to do, or would you like me to kind of just give a kind of
Yeah,
a brief overview?
let me go ahead and take a shot at that, because it also
Sure.
will kind of play into showing the companion, which I'll hide here initially.
Sounds good to me, mate.
Okay, so the way that the screener works is, we every 15 minutes we put items out here. Let me just kind of flip over here to Femix. So fine, it's 4:30. That was 12 minutes ago. We have this ETH, and it's got a couple components. It's blue because we're at an extreme at S4. So that's not uncommon for like the end of the day, like we're at, for things to get more and more extreme. Obviously, at the beginning of the day, it's more likely will be towards the center. But what this is saying is that we're 0.66% away from S4. This little down up gives you a visual idea that we're approaching this pivot from above, and we're expecting it to bounce up off of it. So we're looking to long, basically here. And then it shows you the MFI. We're kind of filtering it at the moment so that the MFI, these items will only show up if the MFI is in an extreme zone, which is less than 20 or greater than 80. Skip BC for a second. And then the Z-score, in this case, is negative 2.09. Z-score is another way of measuring standard deviations from the mean. So we're using the mean as being 96 period average. So 96 periods on a 15-minute chart is 1 day. So it's taking a look at the average price over an entire day prior to right now, and then scoring it. And there's a great video that I've posted out there before that gives you an idea of what a Z-score is and why we use it. But I'll summarize it to just say Z-score is a way that we can use to compare two things that are dissimilar. Okay, and like in the video, they compare someone's score on an SAT versus an ACT, which if you're not from the US, you probably don't know what that means, but they're two different college prep tests that people take to prepare to measure their preparedness for college. So they have the same purpose, but they're scored completely different. One goes from, I think, like 800 to 1600, and the other one goes from like 20 to 32, something like that. So, but if you had two people, or in our case with here, we had two symbols that are being measured against each other because we want to decide which one of them is a potentially better trade. Z-score is a way that we can compare the two relatively, even though they've got completely different prices. I mean, you think about comparing Bitcoin to some of these coins that like are 0.0003 cents, or something like that. We're filtering out everything that's outside of 2. So they have to be -2 or above +2. So that's why you see these here. And then back to BC, that's the Bitcoin correlation. So we're correlating the price movement of this item to Bitcoins, and it's the Bitcoin index now. We used to be using MEXC's Bitcoin perpetual contract, but now we're just using the Bitcoin index. And basically, the closer this is to 1, the more that this item is moving, or that this coin or token is moving with Bitcoin's moves. And the farther away it gets from there, the more it's becoming decorrelated with it, down to 0. And then as we go beyond 0 into negative, that's actually showing negative correlation to Bitcoin. So it's moving in opposite direction to that. And Quackers, I see, are using exchanges to get values. Which values? The ones up here in the screener? No, these are coming from TradingView. So, I mean, in a way, yes, they are coming from the exchanges indirectly, because that's where TradingView gets the values. But everything's calculated. So all we're getting from TradingView is actually the open, close, high, low, and volume. And from those 5 points of data, we calculate all these other things. Okay, and so the way that the screener works, like I mentioned before, each one of these is looking at 54 different coins. And so the purpose of the screener is to allow you to not have to go through all of those yourself every 15 minutes to find potentially good trades. Here you can just focus on the ones that are probably the best setups, and then you go and you can do your TA based on those rather than all 54 of them every 15 minutes. So like here as an example, I've got just one of these Lena pulled up. This one was not on any screener, by the way, but if we look at the values, you could actually find the same values by looking at indicators for them. Like I mentioned, we've got that range ruler, so we add that in. We can see that it was kind of heading down towards S1. Now, though, it's kind of heading back up towards the central pivot. Right here, we can see the MFI is like right in the middle, 48, and there's the Z score is almost right on the average. So, and the correlation is pretty high, which you can kind of see here too, between the orange and the blue. For a while, they were going opposite each other right here. So this down move, Bitcoin must have been going up during that down move. But now they're back to correlation. And that's one of the benefits of looking at correlation, because most of these, unless they have a habit of moving against Bitcoin, and there's a handful that do, like Tomo is one that I mentioned, and I know like Liink classically moves opposite Bitcoin, but most of them will move with Bitcoin most of the time. And so when they get decorrelated and they're moving opposite to the direction of Bitcoin, that's when you know that at some point that's going to come back to the mean and be correlated again. Now, whether that means that Bitcoin will join it in the direction it's going, or whether the symbol you're looking at goes and starts agreeing with Bitcoin, it's hard to tell. You might have to look at a lot of different pieces of data to determine that. Just so you know, too, there are additions and enhancements that I have planned for the screener, which are only going to be made to these new ones that are being added to this first tier, which are surrounding like pretty high-end concepts or complicated concepts, like autocorrelation and trend correlation, because those are things that you can look at to help you predict when reversals are likely to happen. Okay, they're not in there yet, but I do have plans for that. So let me turn this other guy back on now and talk about like, well, what am I seeing here? So even though this one did not come up in a screener, and as you see, like my screeners are empty right now, like the market's not doing anything for the most part. We're kind of in between, like this no man's zone between the central pivot point and S1 on most of these. But okay, I can bring this up. So this indicator, which we have in tier 2, but it's nice because it gives you the same data as all these other ones do, but in a more compact form that fits right here on your right on your chart. And like, so one of the things that it's tracking here is that we are in an uptrend and we're heading towards this central pivot, and it tells us how far away we are, 1.96% or 2.2 ATRs. The 2.2 ATRs is good to know, because if we're like trying to plan ahead, the earliest we would probably expect it to reach up there is in 2 candles, because that ATR is a 15-minute ATR, not a daily ATR. So it would be unlikely for us to get there in 1 candle. It could happen, but on average, it's going to take 2.3 candles to get
Yeah.
up to this point, which at that point, then we would expect a reversal. Although maybe not. I mean, these aren't like screaming reversal to me. This MFI 48, I mean, that's right in the middle. However, this is fairly decorrelated from Bitcoin right now. So if we look at what Bitcoin's doing, we're doing the opposite at the moment. So that, can only go on for so long, and then it's going to reverse from there. I do like what I see down here at the bottom because it's also mapping out liquidity zones for us, or supply and demand zones. In this green box that it's mapped out down here, you see it has been tested once, so that might be enough, and we're going back up. However, S1 is like right there at the other end of this liquidity zone. So if it does come back down here, I would look for it to reverse either there or right here at the top of this box as well.
Yeah.
It may wick through that S1. Okay, so let me pause there. Andrew, do you have any comments you want to make about this, or things that you would have had me add that I didn't?
No, I mean, just for those that this is kind of Kevin's playground. So a lot of what you're seeing here with all of these different indicators, typically when I have a copy of that, I have a much more like that. So a cleaner chart which just shows my MFI is as a visual representation below, so I can see that it's overbought and oversold. But I'm only really focusing on the screen as output. So if the screener gives me something to look at, maybe it gives 5 outputs at a 15-minute closed candle, and so I'll go and review them. And the first thing I'm looking for is, okay, well, number one, I know it's overbought or oversold. Number two, I know it's somewhat more than 2 standard deviations away from the SMA, and I also know that I'm overbought and oversold. So I know a number of these key objectives have already been qualified. What I'm then looking for is, where's the nearest supply and demand zone to where this element is coming into? So if it's a specific token, how close are we to a supply and demand zone? And moreover, is that supply and demand zone relatively close to an S1 or an S2, an R1 and R2? And I find that in itself gives you a lot of cleaned out signals for you to then apply your TA. And so no, it covered it really well. It's exactly what kind of I would have wanted to show, but just wanted to make sure for people out there or watch it at a later date, when you get the companion indicator, clearly you will get the other indicators as well, which would form part of the CPR, which is the pivot points. Obviously, the MFI, which is a standard MFI you can pull off any chart and software. But the companion indicator, that just gives you everything in one nice, neat kind of little information box, as well as those red and green supply and demand zones as well. So for me, I like to just have everything in one indicator where it's nice and clean and neat, and that's pretty much what you've gone over. So yeah, good job.
Yeah, thanks. So the last thing I wanted to show here, I actually found one. So ARB here, like, it's fallen 11% today. So it's just down, 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 down. That's why there's no supply zone beneath here, because we've come so far down today. But notice that it basically came down to S3, and it looks to be like it's bouncing here now, even though the MFI is in the middle. The Z-score, I mean, negative 1.6 is actually above 90%. If you wanted to, I think actually it's 1.64 for a Z-score is equivalent to the 90 percentile. So it's not at the 95 or 99%, but it's down there. And this qualified when this whole thing turned green. What that means is it's detected the reversal that's happened here. Now, I have it set currently to be very aggressive with those reversals, so sometimes they don't hold. So we could like roll over here and it'll fall down. But before it turned to qualified, I probably would not, even consider longing this, because sure, yeah, it hit this S3 zone, but look, it's come down like from up there today. So that means that it came down to S1, fell through, came down to S2, fell through. Now we're down at S3. What makes you think it's going to bounce? But at least here we have had the qualified switch over in momentum. So that kind of is a helpful note.
I don't know if you noticed, Kev, but
You
just
did there
while you were
too.
kind of describing that, ETH popped into the live screen at output literally for like 10 seconds.
I like over here. Yeah. So I mean, this is an example of if you're in that tier 2 and you have access to the screener indicators themselves, you would have. I mean, these are invite only indicators, so you'd be able to add them to your charts directly. And see them in real time. And so you saw there ETH popped in, but then it went out, because the only ones that actually get sent to Discord are the ones that at the 15-minute candle close are currently showing on that indicator. So there's quite often ones that just pop in and out. And so sometimes it's because they're just on the edge of like maybe the MFI being like right at 80, and they kind of go in and out as their price goes up and down. But I've found a lot of times where there's a heavy move, like liquidity grab type move to one direction, where it'll pop in there, but then the candle wicks back up so fast that it drops back out because the Z index isn't below 2 anymore or something like that. So there's that. And actually, what I can show you here is this is the actual, like all of the screeners currently running in Discord. So we have, and the reason that there's 3 for each one is because there's a trading view limitation, and because of that limitation, I can only have 18. I can only track 18 symbols per instance of the indicator. So to get to 54, I need to have 3 instances. So that's why there's 3 MEXCs, 3 Bybits, and 3 FEMEXs. And you can see different things popping in and out here. Actually, they're all agreeing right now with ETH. But I did see some other ones down here before. So you would be, if you had on this tier, you could add these, but not only could you add them yourself, you could set them up however you wanted. So you could just go in here and change, the settings for these as to what you want your thresholds to be. Like, or maybe you don't like the Z-score using 96 periods. You want it to use, 14 or whatever. Then you could change that yourself, and then all 18. Is that right? Maybe it's 19. Anyway, you could set all the symbols up to exactly what you want to be.
That's really cool.
Then if you needed more than 18 of them, then you just add additional instances of it to your chart. There's another thing that was listed on that tier 2 as a benefit, and that was like real-time access to this. Of course, you could just add these yourself to TradingView, but you'd also have access to this like on a web page. So if you want to just view the web page as opposed to having it open, like, because if you don't have a higher end TradingView account, subscription, it's been so long for me that I've forgotten what all the limitations are. But like, I know you can't just save unlimited number of charts, so you might not want to have like a chart like this just dedicated to this. Like, I think if you're on the first tier, you can only save like 10 charts, whereas for me, since I have a premium account, it's unlimited. And you also might not want to like set up your own alerts on them because you have a limited amount of alerts. But for like all of the things that are being sent over here to the Discord, we're using my alerts from TradingView because I have a premium account. So that's just one way that we can like pass along that value to you. But it's up to you whether you want to like view this in real time on a web page, which of course then doesn't use any of your slots up in TradingView, or if you want to have the ability to set them exactly how you want them and have them in TradingView. Okay. The only other thing that I think had like my name attached to it in tier 2 was perhaps the discounts. So, my company, I've built many indicators over the years, and so those are available, for purchase. The way I don't use subscriptions or anything like that, it's a one-time purchase, so you can buy them and then they're yours forever. And for anyone though that is like a tier 2 subscriber to this Discord, we're going to I'll make significant discounts. Let's say for right now, I'm going to say 40% discounts on those. And of course, once you buy that, they're yours forever. So
very cool.
Over time, I'll probably do more videos on those. A lot of them already have some videos out there. Like I know Nutshell has a video out there, but funny, my absolute favorite indicator of my own, which is this DSI right here. I have never actually recorded a video about it. Maybe it's because secretly I don't want other people using it and keep it all to myself. But I mean, a lot of people have bought it. But yeah, it's basically a dynamically bound RSI with divergence and some other things. So, how the problem with RSI is you never know when it's going to turn around. I mean, yeah, there's 80% and 20% at the bottom, but they never usually follow that. Whereas this indicator uses a lot of cycle theory to basically find where it expects the tops and bottoms for it to bounce. Not always true. Like on this big move right here, obviously it went outside that bound, but then it adjusted and then we got back in. So anyway, those are different things as well. So I'm gonna kind of turn it back over now to Andrew here and let you talk about some things.
Yeah, well, I'll just let's see. I think I have to stop screen, present. Let me just ping up my Excel charts. Okay. Okay. So you can see my charts. Hopefully in a second. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, we may have slightly different styles in which we trade. I'm very much probably more aligned to SMC, not every part of it, but a lot of the ideas heavily I put a big focus into market structure, like a lot of people, by the way. But for me, what I like to do is once we get into a zone, like you can see here, and we're on BTC right now as an example, and you can see, we kind of thrash through. This is the new day, so I don't know if we take this back to here, you'll see in the previous day's range. Hang on, it's not going to show you yesterday's range, is it? If I take that back, actually, maybe to here. No, still stays on that range. So you just get rid of that. But this actually went right the way through to S4. This point here, and then had a nice bounce back. But what every good trader should do is they shouldn't just set limit orders directly into a zone because it's an S1 or an S2 or whatever it would be. Like every good trader, you should really get down to the lower time frames, and you should be really monitoring at a lower resolution on like what happens when we get down here. So you can see, on the 1 minute time frame, you may not have caught that, but of course what you do see is kind of maybe a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, kind of a bit of a liquidity setup here, and then obviously we blast through. You can maybe argue we've got a bit of a change of character there, and so what I always do is once I get into that zone and hit an area, like this is a nice demand zone here, right, where you'd expect price to come back down, but again, because of the bearish nature and the way we've gone in with this move, I want to see some clear structure. So you want to see that change of character, specifically if we've been making downward moves, really hit into like a demand zone or a supply zone, whatever it would be. Then get your change of character, wait for the small pullback, and then you get the enter. I've found personally, when I'm using the screener, my biggest success rate is not by blindly just going into a specific region because the screener signals, but actually using some further diagnostics with TA and making sure that at a smaller granular level, okay, we're approaching S1 or S2, but actually, like we've seen today, we've blasted through S1, S2, S3, and S4 before we, started to pivot. And so a way in which you can eradicate a lot of these false signals, let's just say, is when you do approach that zone, what happens? What's the market structure tell you? And of course, a lot of what I want to do and what we'll be doing as part of the tier one actually is really getting deep into market structure analysis, understanding what that actually means, the strength of a so understanding like your discount, your premium areas, and where you expect a pullback to come into, and moreover, where are those key supply and demand zones within that discounted range before you expect price to continue on that trend. That for me, that's a really big part of core knowledge when it comes to trading, and having that base is key to everything. Whatever type of trader you are, whether you're swing trader, day trader, scalper, I think structure is key. And so what's really nice is when you've got these tools that kind of, let's say, remove some of the noise and stop you having to look through tons and tons of different tokens that you're trading on. You just want to know what's popping, where what's coming to a clear area. That's why I like to incorporate the market structure and that kind of idea on kind of smart money to figure out where those demand zones. Specifically, I really love when we have a demand zone in and around, an area that's not just a 15-minute demand zone, but even if you scale back out, maybe going to the 1 hour or the 4 hour, and it's all fractal at the end of the day anyway. But at that granular level, just knowing that you've got some really good correlation of data that overlays. That's how I like to trade, and for me, in and around the stuff that I will be adding is that educational layer and that kind of live overview that is using the screener in and around what I'm looking for, so you can kind of see how I use it. And what would be great actually is as we kind of develop this and add even more elements to it, actually seeing how other people trade and other people use these indicators, these screeners rather, because people can use these in different ways. Like for me, a big one, I think sometimes when I think of the correlation to Bitcoin, getting an early indication that maybe some shit coins ready to start going crazy into the move, or was ready to drop crazily. Sometimes you can see that in the Bitcoin correlation, like something you can just see it start to shift a little bit. And so there's a lot of different things that can kind of play out with the with this indicator, with the screener rather. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of that really. But yeah, no, it's a really good thing for depending on your type of trade. It's not, I mean, this isn't going to be for everyone, right? Some people might not want to trade reversals, some might be breakout, and that's kind of cool as well. They have a different way of trading. For the most part, I'm pretty much a reversal type trader, or at least what I would say is I like to trade with the trend, but I like to wait for that pullback. And that pullback, from a market structure perspective, it is that kind of where are we relative to the zone. So you can clearly see here, from a kind of bearish mentality, small pullback, then we've got that big drop. But I would say that wick doesn't count as a move, and so you kind of going here where we have that this would have been that breaker structure. So it's just change of character, and then we've had the breaker structure here because we closed. Let me just tidy that up just because I think it'd be a good thing to just show what I mean here. So looking at we pretty much had a change of character here. Right, and then realistically you could say, well, actually, where do we get that breaker structure? Well, a lot of these were quite wicky, and so it's difficult to say, because whenever you see wicks, it's more like a hunt for liquidity. So the deepest point here is actually this with the candle close, right? And then this is where that candle. So we actually got a macro based breaker structure there, and so that's, for me, that's continuation of bearish momentum. But of course, looking at that new swing range, you might say, well, apologies, the swing range now is kind of here, say somewhere around there, and so I would naturally expect that we should come back up to some sort of demand zone. And so on a daily level, when I've got my swing open of my top and bottom range, I'm absolutely anticipating that this is going to break, because we flipped bearish, right? We've had a change of character. We've also had a break of structure to the downside. But of course, price doesn't go down forever, right? And so the next move I would expect is at least some sort of a move back up to some sort of a supply zone. You can probably argue right now the supply zone that the companion has picked out is here, which is absolutely right. It's a really big supply zone. And so what I was trying to say before is, moving into this daily range here, the pivot points, which you can see on the chart, which is the dailies. You've got your central points here. You've got R1, R2, R3, and R4. The really big interesting areas are, of course, each day is going to bring a different pivot point, and I'm not anticipating that we're going to maybe reach these heights anytime soon. But specifically from a supply and demand perspective, this is just noise right now, and so you want to really see the demand zones. If I go to the 15-minute as an example, in that same swing range, here's the demand zone, right? And so if that's my swing range top there, and that's the swing range bottom, wherever it would be, when we come into this area, okay, that's a supply zone, but also this is a supply zone as well. And so when I'm saying getting down to smaller time frames, when we start to approach these, you're seeing that kind of higher low, lower low, lower high, lower low, that structure moving downwards. But equally, you wanted to see that also on that fractal nature, because you're waiting for that change of character on a smaller time frame before you get into that trade. And that's why I like the screener to, not have to just rely on simply looking at Bitcoin as an example. I want to know what alts are available to us and which ones are giving us those signals to really start doing that TA. And so again, just to kind of go over it, that's a lot of what I'll kind of be covering within the server. I think that covers my side as well. Is there anything else? Just don't know if there's been any further questions that have come into the. I'll stop sharing that right now. Actually,
I did see a question asking about gold trade, and I guess the point is almost any of these indicators will work with a gold chart, so you could use them for trading against that. And I do that quite a bit. I mean, I know a lot of people in the Discord know that I actually trade more stocks than crypto on many days. Haven't been in gold for about 2 years though. But that should work the same way. However, gold is not in any of our screeners, because our screeners are hitting up crypto exchanges, and none of those exchanges right now have CFDs for gold or anything like that. So
from
gold's never going to appear in our screener.
I guess it won't from the screener, but from the companion side, you would still get the information, right? You still get the so at quick glance, you could still get that information. You just wouldn't get the screener to pop with a point, because it's strictly focused on crypto at the moment and altcoins. But that's not to say we can't simply add these things in the future,
right? Yeah, and there have been, and there still is, I'm sure, some exchanges out there that have things like gold and other ETFs and stocks and that have been tokenized and basically turned into CFDs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, right now, what we'll do, we're going to do some giveaways. Not right now, not live on YouTube, but we'll do them in the Discord server. And so, in order for you to be in with a shout for the 10K funded account, first of all, just get into our server, come and join our server, and just let me know that you watch the YouTube video or whatever else. Even if you're a current Discord member, of course you'll be invited. We'll be posting something relatively soon on how to enter for that, but we'll also be giving away the NFTs to get you access into the server. I probably should very quickly just go over actually how to purchase the NFTs if you want to get into the tiers and also access some of these cool innovations that we've provided as part of this suite. So let me just stop share on my screen a second, and then let me present. If we're doing, present, share screen. I've done this go right now. Doing hello. Okay, so you can tell I don't do this often. Right, share screen. Okay, Discord. Right. So basically, what you do is in the service section. So just right now, you can see obviously we have the VIP tier 1 and the VIP tier 2. And they're all the different elements that form part of that. But there is within that this subscribe here, and so it's just 2 steps really. The first thing you do is you click here, and then what that's going to do is it's going to take you to a browser where you can. I can't do it unfortunately because I can't share that at the same time. But basically, when you click the link, it'll pop you up to a website. It's just it's just done through crypto, so it just connects your MetaMask wallet. You can choose Arbitrum or you can choose Polygon. At the moment, we're only doing USDT, but we can do USDC. I think there's also the BNB chain. So if there's other chains that are more preferable, then just let us know, and more than happy to kind of add this additional elements. Right now, there's the it's just monthly payments, so either the VIP 1 or VIP 2. However, what we will add, I think, is if you want to do like a half yearly subscription or a 12-month subscription, I think we'll do that for like 10 months. So you'll get 2 months free if you go for a 12-month subscription as an example. So we launched it today, so we just need to think about how we want to structure that, but absolutely open to kind of changing some of the ways in which payments can be made. Don't want this to be difficult, but it is relatively straightforward. You'll just literally connect it to your wallet, and then all of a sudden you'll. By the way, I went long on ETH after I was done talking. Who's this? This you, Kev? And so yeah, once it does that, so Sleeping Giant looks like he already has tier 1. What a legend! What a gentleman! So that will. It's relatively straightforward. Once you've connected your wallet, you will purchase the NFT, and then it will link to your wallet. Then you'll click Become a VIP. That will just authenticate, give you the role. So the role will be VIP 1 or VIP tier 2. If you're the VIP 1, you will get access to everything within VIP 1. I think once you're in tier 2, you will see everything within 2, 1, and everything else. And so that's pretty much it. Look, everything will be open. As I say, this is for me personally. I want this to be inclusive. I don't want people feeling that they need to, have to subscribe to be part of the team. Absolutely not. I mean, we'll always have the screener in its current format anyway. It's just we're starting to focus a little bit more on deep dive and putting some more deeper analytical elements to the screener, and then so. It's a lot of time and effort, and so it's not really about trying to make money. It's just covering costs for some of the hard work that goes on behind the scenes to get these done. So that I say that with honesty, rather than trying to make this into any kind of crazy business. It's just we spend a lot of time on this, and so we're trying to just justify some sort of cost requirements, let's just say. But hopefully, by the way, we hope, and hopefully we'll demonstrate on kind of how we're doing this and how we're taking these trades forward, that actually there's a lot of value in there as well. It's not just, I won't say what I was going to say, but anyway, there's a lot of servers out there that you see these kind of things, but that I don't know. Anyway, I will reserve judgment on that. Kev, anything else from you, my friend, before we call this one a day?
No, I just want to thank everyone that's watching live and then those that are watching afterwards on the recorded. We kind of made the switch to YouTube, and I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties at the very beginning there, but I wanted to make sure that we had a good recording for everyone going forward. And like I had mentioned all throughout, there's going to be a lot of new content created around a lot of these benefits and how you can best utilize them. So look for that.
Perfect.
And everyone watch my YouTube video from earlier today too. It's a Foxify type based video.
Oh yeah, let's just pick that up actually, because one of the things we forgot to mention, and it's again something I need to add. So if you are from Foxify and you are part of the Apex Trades team, which is our affiliate with Foxify, then you will get 20% discount on either tier, actually, whether it's tier 1 or tier 2. Please don't join yet if you are, but if you're coming across from Foxify and you can verify that you are within Team Apex Trades, I will be setting up two ways in which you can link Foxify at a 20% discount. So I'll pick that up separately, but I'll maybe just do an announcement once that's done. But that's just because we are, we work quite closely with the guys over at Foxify, and good friends of ours. So that will be the case. But actually, one of the things that you done, Kev, which I thought was fascinating, and we could maybe just go over it very quickly. So, like with the screener, one of the things we've done, and one of the things you'll notice actually is with the screener, if you're trading on a specific chart, whether it's Bybit, whether it's, Femex, Binance, whatever it is, if you're trading on Binance, you don't want to be using Bybit's chart, or you don't want to use an alternative chart because of the price action, right? You want to trade the price action you're on. And that means that if you are adding indicators for that price chart, then them indicators will naturally link into that specific asset, right? So if it's BTC and you put an MFI on the chart, it will link to Bybits or whatever central exchange you're on. From a trading view perspective, it should link directly to that chart. And so whenever you're using, and you may pull me up if I get this wrong, Kevin, but if you're using like a DEX, a lot of them use what is it? PHY.
It's PYTH. PYTH.
PYTH.
Price Oracle.
Yeah. So it's a price oracle, but one of the limitations in that is that it won't give you volume statistics, and so a lot of the kind of like an MFI, like Kev said before, was a volume weighted average kind of RSI, or a volume weighted RSI rather, which relies on volume. It can't pull that directly from the PYTH price oracle. And so Kev done a really, really cool video actually on how to get around that. So if you're trading on Foxify, as an example, and you want to use Foxify's price, which is the oracle of the PYTH, the in which it gets its price from, again, you want to, if you're doing your analytics and you're trading analysis on a specific chart, you want to make sure you're using that price, right? Not an alternative price. But equally, you want to make sure that if you're using any trading indicators, that they're relative to that price as well, or the price chart. And so if you're using volume as an example, you'd be limited to, you just get NAN, which means it doesn't pick up that element. And so what Kevin did was a fantastic video on how to get around that. It's quite technical, but it's pretty easy to follow once you kind of get on that. So that's actually submitted in our server. I believe you may have actually added that into MDB. Oh no, I'm going to speak to Frido actually to get that added on. But anyway, it's a really, really good video. It's in our server now. It's in the general chat. If you guys want to watch that, and you're from Foxify and you're watching this later at a separate time, please go ahead and check that out, because there's a lot of value in which what's being shared there.
And it's short. It's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, as Kev said, there's going to be a ton more content coming out, and we'll be doing these quite often and quite active now that we've launched. And so, keep an eye out, and thank you guys for watching along. And if you're watching in the future, thank you for watching it as well. So that being said, we'll leave this one there, and catch you guys soon. Thanks, Kev.
Hey, thanks. Bye all.